one of the great things about this is it's the first time we've been together after 3 years. So this is sort of, hey, great to see you again. Gone a bit greyer. So actually post-COVID, this is a big buzz. Also for me, it's seeing old friends who we've seen, some going back 30 years, come back every 4 or 5 years. And then you kind of say, gosh, when did we last? And you give a hug and catch up. Hello, my name is Nigel Windsor. I'm now retired in the world of field science, but I used to work at the Royal Geographical Society and also had the privilege to head up Earthwatch Europe for 10 years, but now involved in a number of projects around the world, predominantly in the Middle East, in Africa, promoting this important world of field science and the need to complete the geographical audit of the planet as quickly as possible. When we came in and somebody asked first-timers, a sea of hands went up, and that made me feel really good because that's new, young, really exciting new explorers wanting to do great things. There's a nice story here, which I don't know if you'll be able to squeeze it into your film, but let me tell you. When I was an undergraduate, I had the privilege to, at the Polytechnic of Central London, to run a seminar called, and you can only do it when you're a student, the World Exploration Conference. And I rang up the president of the RGS and said, Sir Duncan Cumming, I said, will you come and chair? And he hesitated and said yes. And then I rang up the director of the RGS, Dr. John Hemming, to say would he speak, and he said yes. They came to this seminar. On the basis of that, I got invited to come to the Society to help with a similar seminar on how to plan an expedition. And that started right back in the late 70s. One theme that's the same is young people, when they're doing their studies, wake up to say, how can I contribute to my work, my passion, to understanding the planet? And getting everyone together to hear what others are doing creates this kindred spirit, gives them energy, but most importantly gives them hope to be able to go and get funds to do their projects. So I think there's two areas where it's changing quite fast. And it was touched on in the early discussions of the Explore. There's now an urgency, increased urgency, to go out and collect those data points. So we're seeing such environmental change in the planet. Of course, it was happening in the 70s and 80s, but I think that urgency comes across almost with greater strength now. So there's urgency. The second most important thing is that, of course, it's explore for all, everywhere. So from playpen to rainforest, so you can start exploring your back garden, and being inclusive to say it's actually for all of us to be involved in this world of exploration. So inclusion and urgency, the two big changes going on. What I'm really impressed by, a range of people coming here who've got, a range of abilities. We're on the scale. We're always somewhere on the spectrum with our abilities and our mental capacities and our well-being. The great thing is that you've got now teams who say we can all be part of this and we can all be partake in great exploration groups. And particularly one or two of the advisors who've come down to help us are really good at saying, that's not a problem, you can get into the field, let me know how we can help you. I think that's really positive, I love that. So when you hear about Explore and want to start planning on what you should do before you get here, you need to just think of one thing. What is your passion? What do you want to do? Because if it's your passion to climb, then think about how your climbing goals can then relate to future exploration. Or if your passion is birds, then you can relate that to where in the world you can contribute to important bird areas. Or if your passion is understanding what's happening in the marine environment, say the impact of plastics, then that can be your starting point. And if you have your passion, that helps the discussions on everybody you meet. So I always say that's a good thing to bring to Explore. The most critical thing, in my view, is to make sure they feel comfortable in a team. They understand where they fit into that team. They feel that the team is cohesive, has a clear aim, one single aim, supporting objectives, and everyone agrees in that group what the end result should be in terms of leaving a legacy for a better tomorrow. So that I think is really critical. And if they don't feel comfortable with that, then that needs to be sorted out before departure. For me, the best thing about the people who go through Explore and do a great journey is not just they might come back with new knowledge and share that at a local level to contribute to policies and future development and conservation plans. They become very good at sharing that knowledge to others to inspire them to join the quest. And the quest at the end of the day is that we all need to do more to understand the geography of this planet. It comes down to there's just a greater number of field scientists around the world collecting geographical data. I'm working in a number of countries in East Africa and the Middle East where I just see outstanding exploration activities by a new generation of young scientists in those areas. And the key is that we are on a shared planet, and therefore we need to all work collaboratively and share that data globally. And if we individually can put projects together jointly and get funding from a variety of sources to enable those to take place, that's a very powerful way of understanding our changing place in this world. So technology on expeditions is just how it's changed. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you the size of my GPS, our GPS that we used in the Karakoram in 1980. 2 big boxes costing £280,000 right down to the handheld. So technology is just making it easier to be safe in the field, to know where you're going, to record the data, to share the data onto databases. So that's making the sharing process outstandingly more efficient. Absolutely fantastic. Being able to do translations in the field, being able to check databases in the field, even getting down to whether it's a new species on science. Mapping is getting easier to do. So all this is just improving the quality of the field science we can do globally and internationally. But don't forget, it's not just about that. On any project, you still need to have time listening to the local voice, the local community, the local guardians. And you don't want to get technology in the way of all that, if you see what I mean. So there's still on any project, there's still room for me, a notepad and a pencil to take notes. So there is still room for, like all the old-fashioned of recording, perhaps if you're an artist, being able to paint and draw as well. So I've always liked it on all the projects that you have at one end of the spectrum those who just love the kit, and the other who actually want to just get close to the communities with which we have the privilege to share our time in the field. It's critical that bringing that knowledge back to the host country, that there's an opportunity for that to change policies that impact the global goals. I often refer to, hey, how does your project contribute to the Sustainable Development Goals? Go and have a look at them and see how that does. But I've had experiences on our projects whereby improved knowledge about a particular area over 4 or 5 years has led to that area being upgraded from a game reserve, for example, up to a national park. And that information is then involved in the local community. Another example is how information about the impact of shipping on whales and dolphins in the Mediterranean led to a change of the sea routes forever. So those kind of things I think are good legacy points, and we need to keep an eye on that. And therefore it's very good to go back and look at past projects and say, 10 years ago, and say, what was the outcome of that? There's another thing. Some of the projects which were just observational and did mapping and presented what I call baseline data, or did a transect, because you can go back to the same spot and do comparative work. That transect, we saw a great talk about that today with bumblebees in the Arctic. You can go back to transects back in the 70s and do comparative work. That really enhances the opportunity for understanding our changing world. And there are thousands of reports in the RGS library that would be worth going back to and saying, gosh, this is a measurement of a glacier snout in Greenland in 1973. Look what was recorded. Let's go back and do some comparative work, simple work, but the legacy of long-term observation. It's given me a great buzz this weekend to meet up with those who are both fellows and members and those who are not. For those who are fellows and members, I say thank you for supporting the Society. because it's not about what the society can do for you. It's about what you can do for the society and geography and the planet. Those who are not members, I say, hey, come and join us. We're kindred spirits, and we are all part of the global goal to look after this planet. And it's not expensive, and you don't have to live in London to benefit from being a member or a fellow. But you do join, if you like, kindred spirits, and there's strength in that. And then immediately you're in ability to share knowledge, propose lectures, propose people for getting nominated for medals. You suddenly join a family of geographers who are, if you like, really trying to make a better job of looking after our planet. So I think it's a great group. I'm very proud to be part of that group. If you're thinking about Explore, I promise you, the first person you sit next to in the lecture theatre and say, what are you up to? You'll be blown away by what they're doing, and they will be blown away by your interest of why you're being there. It is all about life is meeting, and you just have a chance to meet over 100 wonderful people to share ideas about what's happening on understanding the future of our planet. So it's about meeting very special people. I can guarantee I've never heard anyone who hasn't been disappointed on who they meet at the Society. It is truly a meeting place. I often used to talk about it being a geographical souk, and you know, there are lots of tents you can visit during a weekend like this, each one really inspiring. So if you want to meet great people who are like-minded, then this is the place to come. I think that, to me, on top of all the other bits of information you're going to get, the knowledge, the contacts, the addresses, the ideas of where you're going to get money from, how to insure your project, how to perhaps tone down your project to something that's a bit more realistic, but it's the meeting the great people.